what was it that got you through probably the lowest point of your 30 years of ministry?
Yeah, what got me through, I had to spend time with the Lord. I had to spend time in prayer with the Lord, and I had to have the Lord's heart. I had to have the Lord warm my heart back up, because I can tell that a coldness and an ice was starting to form around my heart as a result of everything. Because it's not only was it COVID, but 2020 was the whole George Floyd thing, and it was the racial stuff, it was COVID, it was all kinds of stuff mixed in, and it was a very devastating time and then I said some things and caused folks to leave the church because I said something positive about someone that was in office, and so it was just a bunch of things. So gradually, as time began to go, the Lord began to lift me up out of that funk that I was in, and it took some time. Matter of fact, a couple of people asked me, "Have you lost hope?" And I gave the spiritual answer. Oh, I ain't lost hope in God. God is, and I gave the spiritual answer. But on the inside, I had lost hope. In 2020, I didn't do well with it. And I had to, apologize for some things because I spoke up. I spoke up for, a political leader, and boy, folks were hot. Some folks left the church over it and stuff. So I didn't always do the best at it. Yeah. And now here I am, a little bit wiser now, and just the events that just took place, the political atmosphere that just took place. There's things that I would have said earlier that I didn't say this time, and rightfully so. It's a learning. It was a learning thing that learning curve I had to go through in how to balance it when I have both sides at our church. When our church is diverse, if I say this, I'm gonna offend this group over here. If I say this, I'm gonna offend this group over here. So I had to learn how to balance and how to weigh my words through this whole thing. Whereas many friends of mine around the country, they have all one type of church, one type of race at their church. So they can say whatever they want to say, and then it's accepted and it's just good to go. Whereas with me, I have a variety of people here with a variety of ideas, and I had to just weigh my words and make sure I speak with wisdom and speak biblically about some things. And it was better this time around as opposed to a few years ago.
Well, and I just want to appreciate your humility and honesty looking back over it in retrospect. It's just a reminder to me of how we really need to pray for our pastors. Yeah. The church looks to the pastor for guidance on cultural issues, and certainly hasn't been an easy path to walk for anyone, and certainly pastors, knowing that the congregation is looking to you for guidance through the Word on how to handle or how to respond to these issues. And I just so appreciate your humility and honesty about that, but still bringing everyone back to the Word. And you mentioned 2020, and another issue that the church had to face was COVID. And, you have a thriving ministry, including an academy and other things. And we probably could take a whole nother day to discuss COVID. When you reflect on COVID, what would you say is the big takeaway from how you continued to minister during COVID?
COVID was a devastating thing for me personally, because we had just moved into our brand new sanctuary. We had a few months of where the sanctuary was filling up. And I said, oh my goodness, are we going to have to go back to a third service? I went and spoke at a couple of places around the country. And then I got back March 8th, and they were saying something about a virus. And I said, a virus? And things got shut down. So I went from teaching in a sanctuary filled with people to where I was talking to a camera. I didn't deal with it well because what's on the inside, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. And so I was upset at God allowing this to take place. And it came out in some of my messages as well. I became a little cynical, a little, and so it was a tough time, and I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
I went through a time of somewhat, depression, and at the same time, I had to navigate the church through this. Yeah. So I would speak to a camera and an empty, brand new auditorium, and then I would go home and have to deal with the issues. I had my eyes on things that I shouldn't have my eyes on. Should have my eyes on the Lord, but I was looking at what was going on and say, we still haven't recovered from COVID, where I got friends of mine that have and exceeded it. So it's just been challenging, a challenging season that I had to navigate not only the church through, but navigate my own self through that as well.
So honestly, and I know that there's a lot of humility and honesty, and I've mentioned that already. It's a breath of fresh air. There are many pastors and ministry leadership for decades as well in the pulpit that try to present a very polished exterior. Yeah. And we often wonder, as sitting in the pews, so to speak, we often wonder, this is a human. There's got to be a struggle. It's a breath of fresh air to hear how real you are about going through a low point in ministry leadership. So again, you're talking to a younger pastor who's starting out, knowing at some point they're going to hit a low point.
They are.
What do you tell them? What's your advice to them?
Well, number one, I will always tell a person, a younger guy in ministry, that if I was looking back talking to a younger Tony Clark, I would tell him, you got to stay in prayer. You got to stay in prayer. It's everyone who had an encounter with God. They always saw their own humility. They saw their own weakness. Peter, he saw his own weakness when he said, "Depart from me, for I'm a sinful man, oh God." Daniel, when he had an encounter with God, he said, "We have sinned against you." So everyone who had an encounter with God saw their own sinfulness. So pride comes in is when you haven't been in the presence of God lately. The Lord showed me when we were at our other location, the Lord showed me like a vision of an 18-wheeler, and that me and the leadership, we're behind the 18-wheeler trying to push it down the road, that the 18-wheeler was the church. And here we are behind the church trying to push it down the road. And God said, prayer is the diesel fuel that goes in that takes the church down the road. And since then, I said, oh boy, I got to spend more time in prayer.